Otter Creek Engineering for $90,000.
I make a motion to award the hydrogeology project to Otter Creek Engineering for a total of $90,700. Does that have it?
Yes.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Todd to award the hydrology work to Otter Creek Engineering for a total of $90,700. All those in favor signify by saying
Right.
aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Could I just ask, I don't see it immediately here. What is the end date of the entire project? I see dates for particular tasks.
So.
June. What?
Yeah. Yeah, so the goal is December 30th, 24
Okay, I see it. I see it.
for the total project.
Got it.
Which was outlined in the RFP. We wanted it done
Right,
by the end of the
right.
year.
I just wanted to be sure what it actually says.
Yeah, technically, ARPA gives us a runway of plenty of time after that. Signing this contract gets us good to go for ARPA after we affirm the motion and the select board meeting after this.
So I sign.
You sign, we'll do a motion to affirm the awards outlined in this meeting at the end of the main contents of the next meeting, so that the select board is formally making the award for the purposes of ARPA.
So you mean the next meeting tonight?
Yeah, as in
Okay.
literally
Right.
in an
An
hour.
hour, right.
We will,
Right.
we'll affirm any ARPA things that run through the water department. I want to affirm by the select board, just to make sure that we're dotting our i's and crossing our t's. So that only will apply, that applies a lot more to the other RFP.
Right.
Or the other piece of this. So, yeah, so end of the year.
Okay. So there's that one. There's the same page turned upside down here, Nick, for some reason.
Is that the first page of that?
That's what I was thinking, but
I
I'm
think
not
that's-
sure.
Yes,
That was
Yes,
page
that is
one.
the first-
That's the top, that's what I
yes,
was,
that is, I guess, yes, that's the cover page for,
the other one.
I'm not sure.
Is it covered?
Oh, no, this is the last page of this one. This is,
It's there.
yeah,
It's there upside down.
oh, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
there we go.
this is the qualifications of the people working
Okay.
on the project.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And I'll just affirm that. No, never mind. I think you're wrong with that. That may be somewhere else in here. But in any case, I will figure out what. Oh, no, it is the very first page.
That's
Sorry
right.
about that. I will shuffle these pages
So
around when I go.
put
to
it-
this
I'm
submit
gonna
it.
put it on the top of the bottom.
Yeah, I'll get all these in the correct order.
All right. And then the next one is the water system improvements.
Yes, water
This is-
system
this
improvements,
is the,
engineering services for the
Engineering
bidding construction
services
phase.
for the area that was been in question.
South Road.
The file on South Road.
So that one is on at the bottom of the second page. It is $8,500. Paid as a lump sum in 3 phases.
That's just cover.
Right. And when is the completion date?
That they want to move on. The completion date will depend on when they actually get the bids in from the people who are doing the physical construction. But the intention is to be moving on this right away. Like, I will send this in tomorrow. They will be on this by the end of the week, getting prepared to get this out to bid. The plan is to have this in 2 to 3 months. By the end of summer, we want to have someone ready for you guys to award the digging project to actually install it.
Okay, so this is the engineering for that work?
Yes, they will oversee
Construction administration.
construction.
Construction administration, so they're gonna be hiring subcontractors.
They will be they will be preparing the bid documents and circulating them to the contractors who work in the state.
So we won't be doing this, they will be.
They will be doing this, they will be overseeing this, that it complies with all state regulations in the space.
Okay, that's very good, but we don't then have an end date for the project because it hasn't gone through the process
Right.
yet.
We do not have an end date for the project itself.
And
It-
does the state of Vermont understand that we won't have done this yet?
They know that, like, this is being timed up such that it will get done with it. The construction is expected to get done within our window for the existing permits that we already have,
Which is several years,
which is next year. So-
next year. So the idea would be that it would get all ready, it would get out to bid, and then it would be done next year,
It would either be done next year, it could be done the end of this year. There's a very real chance that
depending. Okay, okay.
if we move with, or if they are able to get bids in fairly quickly, because they're not expecting on to take forever. This is not that complicated of a project.
Yeah, but aren't people really busy?
They can be busy, but ultimately this is a pretty small job.
So maybe somebody has a gap and they just
Yeah,
slot it
this is
in.
exactly the
Okay.
kind of job that
Okay,
slot into a gap, fairly small.
okay, okay.
Um,
So we ready for a motion?
Yep.
I make a motion to accept the bid from to award the project to Otter Creek Engineering for the South Road Engineering, Construction Administration, and Oversight of Project for a total of $8,500. Now, are they paying the subcontractors or are we?
because these will be ARPA funds
That
they're gonna come out of.
So
our-
this is the management stuff and then they'll get the subcontractors and we'll, I'm sorry, I didn't
We'll
let
have all-
anybody.
Yeah, we'll
second
have
that.
all
I
them,
apologize.
we will have all the subcontractors
As
under
I'm
contract by
speaking,
the end
I
of the
come
year.
up with more questions, so it's like, sorry, okay.
Yeah,
Is there a second?
I second it.
So second.
Seconds and thirds, really.
Motion made by Cynthia and second by Todd to award the water system improvements to the South Road project. The administration and the bid phase to Otter Creek, all, any discussion, any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And again, I will sign for the board. Bird, do you have anything for us?
Nope. Moving along, important thing to note is that we do have a site visit for the state next Tuesday, for the sanitary survey. So that'll be an important,
What does that mean? Sanitary survey,
The state comes down to inspect all the components of the system and
like the pump house?
on a 3-year cycle.
I'm gonna go and be there through that inspection. I wanna meet these people and see what happens. It was still very, very green when we did this last time in the middle of COVID. So,
Are they likely to find some kind of a problem?
They typically find something if they want to nitpick. They can easily find something.
Because I just worry that, they're constantly changing their rules and regulations and expectations, even though everything's working, then they'll all of a sudden, well, you don't have one of these widgets in purple, yours is green, so it's not good. And everybody's been drinking this water for about a century, but we're not sure it's any, I don't know.
No, I get what you're saying. It's frustrating for operators, but like the last one was 2021, and that's when they found the whole South Road project. That had all been in place. I'll just say, it had all been in place I put that substation in and put it in with the late great Peter Peters in the late 90s, 30 years ago, I put in that system. And it was okay then, 30 years later,
Not okay,
now it's not.
yeah, that's what I'm worried
So-
about, yeah.
They gotta justify their existence, come on.
I know, but they should say that, and then they should say, but it seems to be working, so Well,
And
that's what,
yeah, that's what they don't say.
I know.
We are gonna double check the operations manual on Monday. Her and I are gonna sit down and go through it, make sure it's completely up to date and all that, as well in anticipation of this. So it is an important regulatory mechanism. We do have,
No,
Right.
it's very important. It's just that, and God knows there could be major flaws or systems that have problems, and if we really have problems, we need to know about it. It just makes me nervous. I mean, it's sort of like, if it isn't broken, don't tell us we have to fix it. That's what I'm thinking.
I think they'll be very reassured that the actions of tonight will help satisfy some of their problems, knowing that people who know what they're doing, who are doing very similar work to what was done in Dorset, it has been done in Dorset, is being done in Dorset.
Right,
So-
right. We're being proactive with what we have on the table,
Yeah,
and that's gonna go a long way.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, you're right. We're doing what they told us we needed to do. So they should be pleased with that and just sit back on their laurels or whatever they sit on.
So where are we at with the fire hydrants as far as ARPA and watering and all that? You were replacing 3, right?
Any progress on the reimbursement?
So we're waiting so we'll have the reimbursement for the lead line project that'll give us a lot more liquidity in the department in the next 2 weeks. Or wanted to hold off on making the department to a liquid, until that reimbursement, which has been in process since like more or less when we made the award. I got confirmation this morning that it's being processed imminently. So it should be, so that money will hit our account in the next, say, 2 weeks. You should be able to make that call immediately thereafter.
Yeah, we have the prices on the hydrant.
Yeah,
so-
we're ready to pull the trigger.
Mhm.
We just want to make sure we can easily and not make ourselves too illiquid, when we go and make that big purchase, even acknowledging the 2 of them are coming. So, yep. But thank you for reinforcing.
So one more thing with hydrants.
Yes.
Mark asked me to stop at the bottom of Carboni the other day and just check that out. My thoughts fire wise. About extending that culvert or building a bridge over it or something. My first suggestion was turn the hydrant 1 degree toward Carboni as opposed to Route 7. I don't know if there's an issue with that, because we'd most likely, fire department would drive off the road onto Carboni to hit that anyways, and the hose is long enough to go either direction.
Right.
But I just wanted to hear what your concerns were there.
No concerns other than just being, so I had it done once and they were all on the same page, including the fire department and Nick mentioned. I just wanted to get the concurrence
Yeah.
with the fire department.
So,
So if we're all good on that, I can still have that done.
yeah, I think just turning it so that main steamer is headed right out toward Carboni would alleviate a lot of it. And then you've got 1, 2.5 headed uphill and the main steamer headed right toward Carboni.
Yeah.
I think that would alleviate a lot of that issue right there.
Yeah, and that's a quick
It
fix,
puts you
right?
on flat.
That's
That's a quick.
Flat ground.
That's
Should
in and out.
Should be.
Could I just know
Should
which,
be.
yeah, he's experienced enough to qualify that. Could I just know which hydrants will be replaced or do we have a schedule of which ones are in the worst shape or anything?
There's, the one on Warmbrook Road. And and 2 on East Arlington Road.
Okay,
Out by Spruce Lane and out that
okay,
direction.
okay,
Um,
okay.
Yeah, the one currently, and then the flushing hydrant at the corner of Walker Meadow.
Okay, and I know this is gonna be for a while because we're waiting for the lead line money and things like that, but when you do hydrant replacements, you have to shut off the water in that neighborhood, right?
The way I do
Yeah, and so is it short enough so that you don't notify everybody, or do you notify everybody, or what?
it, right, anyone impacted would be
Will be notified,
notified,
like a note on their door,
right?
or, okay. All right, thank you.
Well, otherwise, we just need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Jamie and seconded by Glenn to adjourn the water board meeting, and we are adjourned.
Okay, we're going to start select board in 14 minutes.
I'm gonna presume you voted. I'm seeing-
Recording stopped.
I misread times and everything, so that's why I'm late. I'm gonna presume you voted yes for the OCE contract for the hydrology.
Yes.
Was there any further discussion because of their lack of attention to us on the wastewater committee side? That, now they got two projects, I'm not getting a response here. How do you expect to get a response then on this one?
Or a little bit,
Observation.
they're the only vendors, so.
I know, yeah, I know they're the only.
And I did a broader solicitation than I've ever done with an engineer on this project.
I just wanna push them along, they need to be accountable for their they need to be accountable for their actions, like I'm accountable for my actions at my work. If they're not fulfilling their promise here, why give them more money to do something else? Granted, I realize they're the only respondent to the RFP, but I hope when you call them, you say, you gotta get your act together.
I'm really hoping that you'll be happy with their report at the wastewater meeting in a couple of weeks. Because they get a little better. I'll say that.
And then I hope I get more, then again in the August meeting, so getting that thing back.
Yeah, they very much in our informal meeting, when I called for a check-in and said, what the hell's going on here? A couple of weeks ago, yes, they certainly expect to be able to deliver on this in a timely fashion. So,
Okay, thank you.
anyway, well, we'll reconvene.
Question for you. I have some, do some thinking for the next 2 weeks, for the 1st of July.
I can't answer that one.
Thank you, Bird.
Unfortunately, we're at the mercy.
I know.
Yes.
I used to have more control. over
Thanks for 9/7.
it. I called over, I won't let
What?
that.
Okay, so more next
Okay,
roads,
good to go.
class
But
one,
damn it,
state
takes
highways.
forever to get-
Class two, paved roads. Class
I didn't
three,
know because we're still
unpaved
working on
roads.
last year's
Importantly,
budget.
that
if
also
that-
includes
We are,
unpaved
but
roads
like,
that are
if you're
partially
approving
sealed,
your budget, then we
and
just
something that I
Bye-bye.
didn't really understand.
If you don't.
Because we still had the custodial position, it wasn't filled,
And you have 313.
that we could still draw from. That's what Deanna's gonna use
So
for a
River
couple weeks.
River Road is a
Teresa.
class three road. From.
Yeah, Dean's in charge all summer, like, we're starting.
Yeah,
to
and
do this,
there's
I'd have
4
to-
different roads that fit that
I don't know, just because I don't know,
Where we
I
came
hate
up
to tell you
together.
yes and then have them go, where the hell is it?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, I don't know if that money's already been used somewhere.
The last time we looked at the budget, there was still money.
Okay, so, I'm perfectly okay with that.
See,
Okay.
they
I can get
import.
get him to do a bunch of painting right now for 2 weeks and then
Will pay
he's
for
done.
Yeah,
up to 80% of
We
the
still,
paving on those
I have
class
got
two
more
roads.
efficient ones.
Sometimes, for some reason, they have applied to adding some of these pavements, like segments, and we get in class three. But, it also pays for other infrastructure on.
As far as the baseboard,
Third place,
steel.
6 culverts on that. for-
Nick. Nick.
Yes.
You muted us?
Oh,
Doesn't look
Yeah, I was told this week.
It is
It
7 o'clock,
was. I
and
had- I
I'm
pulled
gonna
it
call
up.
the select board to order. First item on the agenda is public comments. If there's anybody in the room or on the Zoom that would like to weigh in on any issue not on the agenda, please do so now. If you're on the Zoom, you'll have to unmute yourself. Okay. Next item, business is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. I will entertain a motion.
So,
Second.
Motion is made by Glenn and seconded by Jamie to approve the minutes of the last board meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Under new business, 4.1, highway capital plan. I'm sure, I'm assuming that's what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Mark,
Yeah.
is there anything we need to know that we don't know now?
Mark, I'm gonna share the memo that has, that summarizes the options here, based on what we discussed. So, but I can flip over to the spreadsheets as relevant. So, yeah. So, yeah.
When I took over, we have a rubber tired excavator that it works good, but it's small. And the way that we're using it, for what we're using it for, will probably kill it years before it really would wear out. It's too small for pulling stumps. It's not heavy enough. It doesn't have enough. It has a lot of power for the size of the machine that it is, but it doesn't have enough to, plus it doesn't have the reach. There's ditches in town that I can't reach the bottom because of the boom is too short. And that also hinders with taking trees down, that we need to push a certain way. So I've kind of come up with 3 different scenarios, which
You have scenario 1, which is the adding of the larger excavator. Scenario 2, which is swapping the existing excavator for a larger excavator, but notably these larger excavators are different sizes to complement whether you're keeping the existing machine or not. And then scenario 3, which is your roller mower.
which is keeping the excavator we have, putting a roller behind the grader and some other different equipment.
And then outside of what Mark had discussed, I also put in a couple of things that were built off of his proposal that incorporated some of this short-term versus long-term, making a one-off commitment to an excavator, that are variants of option of scenario 1. But yeah,
I
so
mean, Nick had a good point the other day that once we get all the culverts in town up to spec, we wouldn't need such a big machine, but you still have different projects that a smaller machine it'll do the job, but it's not, it won't do the job because you still can't. Yeah, I mowed down River Road today. And and you all know River Road, Jamie lives there, Cynthia, River Road like the back of your hand. There's so many trees that are right on the edge of the travel way. And by going by them as slow as I did today mowing, I noticed that at least 50% of them have a bad spot in down low, hollow spot, one side that's gouged out and you can tell the inside of it's rotted.
Mhm.
So a lot of these trees that are right up next to the edge of the road really need to come down at some point. Now, I'd like to, a lot of them that either lean the right way, or I know we can push them without hurting wires, that stuff, I'd like to do ourselves. Plus, once the tree is down, then remove the stump, because it's.
Yeah.
It's grown in underneath the road,
Mhm.
so as it deteriorates, the road's gonna give way in that area. Plus, as mowing down through there today, I ran into several stumps that have been there for years that really, when they cut the tree, they should have took the stump out, but they probably didn't have the equipment or time to do it. We've got a couple of situations in town where the actual road doesn't go as far as the town road goes. Like we were up looking at Benedict Hollow the other day with Jim Henderson. There's quite a lot of work up there that needs to be done. Our machine is way too small to even think about trying to do it, because the road's so narrow, there's so many trees that need to come down and be stumped and ditched. So in the three, you probably have it there in front of you, or it's on the thing there. The one option is keeping the machine that we have and adding a track machine, which is a good option, because we can use it in a lot of places where you can't use a wheeled excavator. But I also realize that adds a piece of equipment to our equipment line.
Wait, so you're saying scenario one says add a larger wheeled
Okay,
excavator?
so that's scenario 2 then would be add a track machine.
Well, yeah, I
But
guess.
it still says
No,
wheeled.
no, I think I
It's a typo.
I think I misunderstood you, Mark.
Okay.
And, yeah. There we go.
So are we talking about one or two?
Yeah.
One,
One.
Yeah,
larger
larger-
tracked
Yeah.
Yes,
excavator.
ma'am.
Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at larger excavator.
So, like last year when we had to replace a section of water line over in Chiselsville, which I know is Sunderland, but it's the Arlington Water Company. Because it had leaked so much, it was so muddy, I had to use, I actually borrowed the town of Sandals large track machine. They hold themselves up in the mud a lot better than a wheeled machine. I had our wheeled machine out there and we had to pull it out with a loader because I got stuck.
Mark, can you tell us like some of the specific projects you would use this track machine for? That you have kind of in your mind already?
Yeah, I'd like to make some of the roads a little wider. Butternut Gutter, Buck Hill, River Road, where with a bigger machine, it'd be easier to move, a lot of material quicker. My experience working at Wooders, we had small and large, both track, but small and large. The little ones are great, but you can move a lot more material a lot faster with a bigger one.
So what are you thinking of, like bucket size on the larger one? Like, are you looking like
3/4 of a yard, something like that.
a current is like a half or something?
It's not even that big.
It's like a.
Maybe.
And it would have a,
It would.
have a thumb?
It would have a thumb. Whatever we get would have a thumb. I've found a couple that range from 75 to 85,000 right now. The cheaper one didn't have a thumb, the more expensive one did.
I think we want a thumb. I mean, if you're talking.
Oh,
about-
yeah, no,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Absolutely.
It would
That
have
is
a
the
thumb.
ability that.
Even if the machine didn't have one now, we'd have to have it. for that.
I think it'd be better to.
Hydraulic,
Yeah.
right?
The hydraulic.
Yes.
Do we have a trailer to transport a
We do
track?
not. We do not. So we'd have to have it either hired or find a used 20-ton trailer to purchase.
Okay.
Which aren't that expensive for if you buy one that's used. We're only gonna, what my hope would be with this machine is that we go to River Road and we work it for a month, or we go to, Buck Hill, Butternut Gutter, Maple Hill, any, where we want to do a lot of ditching or whatever.
So that leans toward renting or hiring someone to move it.
To move it.
Yeah, a lot more often, I think that's a really good idea to keep us out on another piece of equipment that's not currently.
I did speak to, Nate, about, if he would be able to move it, he said he would. But he also has a huge trailer that he might want to sell for not too much, money, but, one way or the other, we could get it moved.
And both of these theoretical pieces of equipment, the trailer, if we did buy one, and the excavator would live outside.
Everything basically has to live outside now.
I know, I'm just being
No,
sure.
no,
Nick talks about culvert replacement, and I know we have a lot of culvert replacement. What's your estimate on time savings and with a bigger machine?
I put 11 culverts in last year in 3 days with,
Gates.
James Ollie's.
Oh, James, that's right.
Machine, when ours was broke down, he let us use that. Of course, that's a little bigger than the one that I was looking at. And if we have, I'm happy if we get 2 culverts in a day with this one. Plus, like I said, we're working it really hard.
It's about 33% faster, or if not more. I think Steve has
The
a
other,
question.
the other thing too is you set higher
Mhm.
in it, and it's hard to see the loader trucks with this machine. I mean, it's possible. You kind of have to do it by feel.
Mhm.
Scenario 2 is not getting a tracked excavator. It's trading the 65 that we have and using the 100,000 to try and get a larger wheel lift. So then you're not adding another piece to the puzzle.
Oh, wait.
But
But then when we need a smaller excavator,
Then you don't have it.
So, but importantly, all these scenarios suppose the smaller backhoe that that does
Right.
provide small excavator.
Still would like to
capabilities,
get-
but very small, or more smaller than a current small excavator.
the like when we sold the Yanmar, the plan was to get a backup machine for loader and backhoe.
Yeah,
Um,
That's paragraph 2.
that, all of these scenarios still have
Have
that, $40,000, up to $40,000. Because, our loader went down here, as you all know, a month or so ago. And it cost $2,200 a week just to have it here in case we needed it if we had a storm. I don't think we put 8 hours on in 2 weeks. And I, I hate to spend extra money on something, but I think it's something that would, in my mind, it's something that would benefit the town greatly. To have a bigger machine. The one that they had prior to the old cat that they had, that was sold,
Mhm.
was a 318, which was a little big. And I looked it up, that weighed like 44,000 pounds. It was like 175 horsepower. Ours, I looked up, is 15,000 pounds and like 55 horsepower. So it's something in between that, if we got a wheeled excavator, would be the ideal fit. An EW 100 whacker, town of White Creek has, and I ran that. And it's about halfway, might not be quite halfway of the same size, but, you can see in the truck well with them. But a wheeled excavator is a lot more expensive than a tracked excavator, and there's a lot fewer of them in the used market.
And it doesn't give you the versatility of going off-road.
It doesn't, I've gotten ours off the road some, but, I've had to get pulled out, in certain
Oh, I know.
instances.
And importantly, there is still a place for renting an excavator for some of these niche jobs if we need to. All of these capabilities can be hired as relevant if we do not have to have them. But it's what is your base piece of equipment? Certainly, I don't want to say we couldn't get a piece of equipment if it's, I don't know, some of these off-road scenarios are a little more rare than we typically would be interacting with, because 99% or 95% of the work is happening within the right, where you can sit on it.
Question, if you had a tracked excavator and your rubber tired backhoe,
Mhm.
would you still need the small excavator, wheeled excavator?
The nice thing with the wheeled excavator is we have the brush hog for it.
Okay.
Plus on certain jobs, well, like this winter when we were working in the park,
Mhm.
if we had two excavators at the same time, JJ could have been in one, I could have been in the other, we'd have been out of there in half the time we spent there. I mean, it was the winter time, it wasn't a huge deal, but, and I know what you're saying.
I'm just wondering, I
I've
don't-
done the same thing,
Yeah.
trying to rack my brain how we could do this
So this is a bit of
without
scenario.
having. But somehow I'd like to have something with a front bucket for backup for loading sand and salt in the winter time, because, you know, you don't know when our loader's gonna die.
That is the
you know.
most important piece of resiliency that we could buy by having a balance. I think Steve does have.
Yeah, Steve, you have a
A
question?
couple things. How much did we spend last year on renting an excavator to help you out? If you have the number available, great. If you don't,
I don't know.
okay. Cause, you know, you got three scenarios, you know, playing devil's advocate on the other side. Do culverts need to get updated every year? Or you go from culvert to culvert?
No,
And then-
once they're up to, unless they change the spec.
Which they won't.
We're replacing everything out to 18-inch.
Okay.
If you can still put metal in the ground if it's 18-inch, but we don't, we put plastic in. So theoretically, once they're all changed out, you wouldn't have to.
Yeah, there's a, what, 20+ year life on those plastic culverts. So the life cycle is between 20 and 30 years, as I remember it to be, on these plastic ones that don't rot.
If they're put in correctly, really, they probably last longer than that.
And how much should be added into expense for maintenance and upkeep of this? I mean, you spend $100,000, now you gotta, I mean, if somebody makes a donation of X amount, that's great, but now you're stuck with upkeep. And then I don't know and how much extra would have to be added into this year's budget to accommodate that.
And that's one of the reasons why I did scenario 2. Because you would have basically the same upkeep to a larger wheel excavator that you would a smaller one. It might be a little bit more expensive, some of the parts, but.
Because I look at this is, yeah, not to take away from, you guys and Cynthia, you got $100,000, can I get the excavator and the trailer for $100,000? And of these three scenarios, which one would you recommend?
That's the next question.
Yes.
That's the decision of the night.
Believe me, I've been racking my brain on this for a couple of months. I'd really like to see the tracked excavator. I think it would benefit the town a lot. And I come up with another idea today in my head as I'm, cruising around that. So just say that if we bought a used excavator that's 10 years old and we decide we're gonna get 20 years out of it. So if we keep that machine 20 years, save toward not replacing it, but when it's ready to retire, then step from your EW65 up to a larger wheel one and not have two excavators. Which might be it was just an idea going through my head. You guys are the numbers people, I'm just the one out there doing the
We
work.
could assume that scenario probably falls between this swap scenario and probably the add one larger or one life cycle scenario. It should fall right in between.
You know, we take care of it, even though it'll be, 30 years old, it'll still be worth something. You know, you'll be able to trade it, sell it, whatever, and get something out of it. The other thing is in 8-10 years from now, will things be in such a place where you would add a fourth full-time man to the highway department? And if that was so, an added machine would be quite beneficial. Because at least that way you could actually have 2 crews out, working at the same time.
Wow, that is like so far not a consideration for me at this time.
Well, no, it's just a thought that I had.
I understand that, but we got enough dealing with where we are now. I wanna be having the machines we need now. And if we go to a 4-1 crew and we have 2 crews out there, we'll deal with that later. I'm still not totally convinced that we can't get by renting a track machine when we need it. Not that you can always be sure a track machine will be available when you need it, like truck at the store or something like that.
I'm sure we could find one if, there's several places that rent
And
it.
importantly, we could also work toward finalizing the mutual aid agreements that have been hung up in legal issues with the LCP for some time. That we could work toward making sure that at least among, like, that we're not facing the same thing that V-Trans faces, where they have one excavator that they're sharing across too many areas. Where, okay, we know someone's a neighboring, multiple neighboring towns have a larger track machine, depending on that scenario. But every highway department is gonna be different. We don't know what their capital planning is in every one of these towns. We don't know what the life of their equipment is. We can't rely on it. But certainly that is another source of resiliency in all of these spaces. When
I
we're
mean,
thinking about renting.
if I was in a huge pinch and I needed a track machine tomorrow, if Sandgate was available, they'd let us use it.
I'm a little bit concerned that we can even afford a Whacker 300 or 100.
I found a 2021 that's 165.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
What's that?
I'm looking at it right now.
And there's only one available anywhere in the country. So,
Does it have a
That's the
pump?
problem. That size is very hard to find. Sunderland's is a 313 cat. Of course, once you stamp cat to the side of it, it makes the price go up another 15-20%.
but they are also a lot more available. And the liquidity of that market is also
Not
higher.
313s are not.
That's true.
Because I looked, I found one in Maine a month and a half ago, and it's gone now.
Sounds like this size is absolutely just like a tweener size that it's gonna be hard to find in the used market somewhat.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only one I've even found in the United States. That's,
There's 3, that place in Connecticut, was it in Connecticut?
Yeah.
They got 3 of them. They got a 21, a 22, and a 23. The other 2 don't have a price. You got a powerful price.
yeah. We're not gonna be going, they're not gonna be going down.
Actually, I think one of the other ones was 175. And then the third one was called for free. And I didn't do a lot of pricing, I just looked quick because until you guys figure out what you want to do, there's no sense in me wasting taxpayers.
That's why I look quick too,
Money,
because
time at looking at prices.
we could say scenario 2 is great, but then you could come back in 2 weeks and be like,
Yeah.
you don't have enough money.
Yeah.
So that's why I looked real quick, because
Placing.
you're relying on the fact that they're gonna give us $65,000 for our
Well,
current machine,
No,
which is
and
probably
we'll
unlikely.
probably end up having to not get the rubber tired backhoe to be able to afford the rubber tired excavator.
It's,
The place in Massachusetts, Brookside Equipment, has a Doosan 140, the same thing as the town of Sandgate. I think it's a 2014 with a thumb for 85. That's a tractor shit.
so, yeah, there's a reason I said it.
That's
Or
why I
probably.
say that the used track market is a lot. There's more of them out there that are the size that that would work good.
There's 3
for us,
times or 4 times as many track machines on the used market as there are wheel machines.
if not more.
Yeah.
I mean, the how can I say this? The ARPA money has to be spent at the end of this year?
Yeah.
Allocated.
Because the town of White Creek they trade theirs every 5 years. I think it's 3 years old. Just I was a thought, but then I thought, everybody had.
We're on a bit of a time.
Yeah, you're in a
this.
conundrum.
But certainly, $100,000 of this or so needs to be out. But
Yeah, the other thing is, any of these will be a lot handier for ditching, and ditching you have to do on every road, probably about every 4 to 5 years. They've built in. So,
Can I just ask, Dan, so, in previous discussions, we've noted that in the past, we always had more than one excavator. Was that, am I correct about that?
yes.
Yes, we did.
And was one of
was
them
that
tracked and one of them
One of them
wheeled?
was wheeled, and, I don't know about track, but we have the.
I thought we
the
had
backup
something that
is
was
the
tracked,
Loader
I can-
backhoe was our backup for
Yeah,
use.
but we still have the loader.
We have a loader, but we had a backhoe that was used, that was from like 30 plus years old.
Yeah.
they had a rubber
Ford.
backhoe loader,
Yes.
so on tires with the front bucket and the backhoe in the back.
Okay,
They had Cat 318 wheel excavator, large one, and then they had the Yanmar,
Mini.
the
The mini-
55
mini excavator.
that we sold last year.
okay, that we sold last year.
Because,
Okay,
because it and our wheel excavator were virtually the
they
same
were too
size.
close. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And importantly, it does sound like through history, we got by without a tracked machine. Because the standard for highway departments is wheeled machines for a reason. It is the best thing for the general purposes of municipal highway department.
But that old
If-
backhoe loader, it served us well. We didn't know it's a thing,
No,
but it served us well, and it was a good backup machine. And it was good for the exact reasons you cited.
yeah,
And,
It did 30 good years of service for us.
yeah,
And-
with very little
Or-
maintenance, normal
It
maintenance.
did 10 or 15 years of service after we bought it used. at the time.
and that's what I've been trying to look for a rubber tire backhoe, is something that's under 40,000, that's, got 5 to 7, 8,000 hours on it, that, we're not gonna spend a lot of money on it, we're not gonna use it every day, but it's there when you need it.
So, yeah,
That's our resiliency.
We have times when we're putting culverts in, it's nice to have a loader there to help backfill when you're putting culverts, especially with the excavator that we have now. And if you have the loader at the job and you need a load of gravel, you gotta run the loader all the way back over to Hale to get a.
Yeah, and I
If we
actually,
had that, if we had a rubber tire backhoe, we could either have that on the job or have that over at the pit.
Mhm.
yeah,
I know it sounds
a little
very-
blurb on this in the memo, because this is a really obvious use case of that backhoe. You need a loader and an excavator, but only a little bit of each. You run out that machine and you do the little bit of the culvert heads, an obvious example. That we do a lot of. Those culvert heads need to be reset, they need gravel, things like, or they need rock. That turns a 2-man job into a 1-man.
Mhm.
When I was on Chunks Brook today, where that washed out back in that storm, that summer storm a couple of years ago, and they Wooders rebuilt the bank, and they put like 6 or 8 big stones, like huge, on the top. I don't know who hit one, but it's down in the river. And there's no way that anything that we got. I mean, the track machine that size I was looking at, you'd have to move. I'd probably wait till we were working there doing something else, ditching or whatever, but at least that you could reach
So,
down.
Mark, could you, with a larger machine, we do have some need to have the capability in the long, or in the medium, run, I'll say. Of being able to build these, what I would call a state municipal road standard stack rock wall, that construction. There are a number of places within the town that may need that analog stuff, or analog of that to be built, including, near the base of the Green River, there are a couple of spots along River Road that may need stacked rock walls in there. That kind of machine would be what you would use to build that kind of structure. That could take a job that we would be contracting out to a job we could potentially do in-house. And those are pre-engineered. That the state provides us a guide and they tell you, buy this, put it here. Very simple process, but you gotta have the right machines to do it. And that job cost us $15,000 on Jonesbrook Road for 100 yards.
I mean, originally I was one that questioned this. I can full mark that, and all I wanted to hear was, what was the need? And the reason being is we have to be able to straight face to our public what the need was.
Yep.
It sounds like Mark has, and Nick have demonstrated to me anyways, in this document and what they've said, the need. Could we get away without it? Yep, but I think it's gonna take us at least 33% longer to do the culverts as well as the other road work we have to do. I know Mark and I chatted about, Tory Lane needing work and, all these other roads that are, equipment could potentially do, but it's gonna take longer. Those are roads that are gonna be closed down. Those are single access roads. We can't access them from 2 points. Having them closed down for longer isn't a great idea for emergency services. So, even though I was originally one that was against this, I think it's my opinion that probably the tract excavator is the way to go. We can, if we've used it up its useful life in 5 years, then we can address that in 5 years.
And this is a chance to get that piece of machinery using the ARPA funds.
Right.
Which will give us more flexibility, more resiliency. And if we need to make further adjustments in our portfolio of equipment, we can do that.
Right.
But we will have this additional piece of equipment in the mix to make those adjustments. Is that
Yeah.
pretty much what you're saying?
And
I do have a concern about the trailer.
I do have, go ahead. I do have one other thing that the state has kind of thrown a monkey wrench into what I'd like to do, but with the, having to do so many field sections per year to meet their quota to keep us on good standards. What I'd like to see us be in the next 5 to 8 years is in a plan where a road gets full attention every 4 to 5 years. So every dirt road in town you go to, you do all the ditching. If there's a culvert that is, damaged or needs to be repaired, can be repaired, tree work, the whole 9 years, get that road done from one end to the other. And then go to the next one. But so 1 year you do, 4 roads, 3 roads, whatever, then the next year, the next year, the next year. And then in about 4 to 5 years, you're back to this road again. It needs ditching again. So, you ditch it, you do whatever it needs. That's what I'd like to get us into a rotation of doing. But, the state throws their little monkey wrench in with the failed section. So you kind of have to skip from here to there. But we're trying to get as many of them done in the next couple of years as we can.
We could be piloting it this year on Wilcox Road if all goes well, because
Right.
some of those segments are fairly close. But that one is what is currently our largest singular concentration of work that needs to be done in town.
So what I'm, with that other, with the track machine, the bigger machine, you go to that road, you start at one end, you go to the other, you finish it, you go to the next road, you start and finish the whole thing. I hate the skipping around all the time, but
Band-Aid, yeah.
yeah. I'd like to start at one end.
Official.
River Road course is so long, we'd have to do one half 1 year, one half the next or whatever, but I'm seeing a little bit of light in the last year and a half of our ditching work that we've been doing and our culvert work that we've been doing. I can see where things are starting to, in my eyes, look a lot better.
I would say right now, having driven River Road this afternoon, River Road's looking closer, a lot closer than it's been with Chapin's Hill done. That was the biggest kind of intimidating piece of that road left. And you got a big portion of the eastern end done recently, along with the backside of it.
But the eastern end doesn't, it still has Still needs all culverts.
Yeah, it still needs a bunch of culverts on the east.
There's no 18 inch on the eastern end. of
Yeah.
River Road. And most roads in town, unless they're
Yeah.
hydraulically connected,
Where they failed,
Where
where
it
they washed
failed.
out.
there's still 12 inch, 15 inch metal culverts. There's a lot of them, but
Yeah, so I know we're addressing the equipment thing, but I don't really understand some of the things you're talking about for River Road and Bennett Hollow Road, so maybe we can discuss that later, because I'm not on the same page that you are, but that's a
Yeah,
whole
we'll,
other
we'll
thing.
talk about that.
I'm just flagging that, okay?
Steve, you had a question, comment?
Yeah, the question, oh God, I'm not, if you do vote on this to purchase whatever option or scenario, what is the availability?
of a machine, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, a track machine, there's a dealer that a reputable dealer in Massachusetts that deals with used equipment. He's got two of the ones that I was looking at right in stock.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just looking at it, you had
Yeah,
said December
If
31.
they decide that they want to do the rubber tired excavator, which I don't think is what I'm hearing, but if so, there are a few of those around, but very few. Closest I found was Connecticut.
But a lot of that we're waiting, I should say, we're waiting your recommendation. So when you say these are the options and you say I'm more leaning
Well,
for this or that,
I'd really like to see the
That
track
counts for a
track
lot.
machine. And I really believe it'll make a real positive difference.
So,
And that is
But that,
scenario,
you know,
what number?
so it sounds like that is the
One,
scenario one, and with a future board to decide whether this has been in one or one alternate, where we buy this once, have this capability for 10 years. Or if it's a 2021 or a more recent used model, something like that, that pushes things out a little bit further. On the positive side on this.
Mhm.
So it may be that we get 13, 15 years out of this machine, if it's only 5 years old. If it's 10 years old, we're gonna get, it'll be a bit different. But the base scenario assumes a 10-year-old machine for this one-off purchase. So it's either one or one of two alternates, it sounds like. But that can be for a future board to decide, based on budgeting and things like that. But, yeah.
when you analyze the way Todd was doing it and what you said about the third, what will get lost if we're not careful is how much that third, time is money, right?
Mhm.
So if you're saving a third on every one of those projects,
Mhm.
you need to keep track of it to be able to then justify to the constituents.
Mhm.
This is why we did this. And that's at 33% per culvert, it's gonna add up big time. And it's not gonna take long for it to show up. And it could easily be forgotten in the process.
People
So-
should be able, it should
Gotta
be
be
so
able to-
effective that people can feel it. And they're driving around town, they're
Correct.
seeing more work has been done. And this should be part of the lived experience
Because
here.
the equipment, the right equipment is a multiplier of your time.
Like
And the cruise time.
ultimately, our labor costs are more or less fixed.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be hard for it to show up in cash money.
Right?
What it will show up in is more stuff's gotten done.
Yeah. But you need to point that out to people, was all I'm saying in the analysis, don't let it get lost over here where nobody notices.
Mhm.
Your labor costs for 6 months.
Yeah.
33%, that's about $26,000. So
and remember, this
So how
is,
many years
So
does it take to pay for this
you're
purchase?
talking less than.
well,
In those
remember,
savings.
this is,
That's not
this is
used all the time.
not, but this
It's
is
not
not
used all-
property tax dollars, it's not
Right.
municipal property tax, it's
Right.
still tax
It's
dollars.
still
Because
tax
it's
dollars.
federal tax dollars, so we have an obligation
Yeah.
to make an investment, it would be difficult for us to do
Yeah.
otherwise.
Other ones, yeah.
And that's what
Oh,
we're
if-
doing.
If it
So-
wasn't for the ARPA money.
We couldn't do
no,
it.
There'd be
We
no
couldn't
way
do
we
it.
could do it,
No.
no.
But this is,
And that's what Sandgate did. they spent ARPA money, they bought a Doosan 140.
Yeah.
I think there's a 2019, they paid 110 for it. But you go to Sandgate and see the work they've done with it in the last year and a half, and it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Nobody has, and that's what I mean, by the people can feel it. You go to Sandgate
They can
and
feel
you
it
can
and see
feel
it.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, those two guys work really hard. They've done a great job up there. But without that machine, they would have been able to do nowhere near as much as they.
Correct, correct. That's exactly the point I'm making.
I mean,
It's a
I'd love to have
multiplier
some
of
of our roads
efficiency.
look like what they've done, but I know if I did, I'd be hung by a maple tree up front.
Well, I'll make a motion to authorize Mark to bring bids back on tracked excavator.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Todd and second by Glenn to assign Mark the task of bringing back bids on a tracked excavator for us to ultimately review and make a decision on. All those in favor, say
One quick-
yes, question, discussion.
You're gonna go look at anything ahead of time before we,
Like to, and there's no sense in.
okay, because that was one of the discussions that I
No,
heard
wanna go look at
when we
it.
looked at the bucket loader before,
No site
was to
unseen.
make sure.
Yeah, we're gonna go look at this.
The place in Massachusetts I went to before, they have a spot there, you can run them, you can, they hand you the keys and say, go have fun. And, be able to look it all over good and see if it needs anything.
And you would know, because you know.
He's the right man for
the
that
right
job.
man, yeah.
I don't know
Inspector.
about that.
I think you are.
Is it next to Fenway Park?
No,
I know where you're going.
Northampton or something,
yeah, I can't even remember the name of the town now.
but,
Oh,
One
I know.
other,
Not Athol, right?
one other quick little note, if I can, when we're talking capital.
We got a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
Got
thought
a
it was
motion.
done. Sorry.
Any other questions, discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
now you can.
And I know this is something that can't happen in the next year, but we really need to start thinking about, a new highway garage. And I'm not saying that because I don't like the one that we have. If we had room enough inside to maintain this equipment better in the wintertime, paint it up, and stuff, it would last even longer. So just, and I realize, I know it's a lot of money and I know it's gonna be but just, it should have been done 30 or 40 years ago. It would have been half the money that it's gonna cost.
It has been in our town plan for decades, so it's something
Never
that
found-
should have never left our consciousness.
But
But-
we've
but
never
yeah.
found a good place. We've
Yeah.
never, it's not that we haven't known
No.
it. Everybody's known it. We haven't found a good place to do it. We haven't found a good way to do it. So we need those things.
I've talked to one gentleman that would sell us a piece of land, on Labor Road, which is in a bad spot. Just had a friendly conversation one afternoon with him. But there's one option. But, I mean, we can keep looking, but, I
I
mean,
know, you want indoor plumbing.
I don't care. Yes, I do want indoor plumbing. It would be very nice.
Now, what's wrong with?
But I want a place where where we
No, I
can
know.
wash
No,
our
it's-
trucks inside.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
get them clean and
Yeah.
paint them up, we may have a week in the wintertime or 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. That it's too cold or whatever, we can't do anything outside, it doesn't snow, so there's not that work, but, we could clean our trucks, we could wash our trucks, we could paint on the loader, on the grader, on the excavator, but we can't do that now because we need those 3 heated bays for the trucks at nighttime, so paint doesn't dry that quick, all that stuff, and just.
It would be good.
It would be,
It'd be good to have to at a future meeting where this has been warned, authorize preliminary discussions and some, I don't wanna say dreaming,
we need to start
but some
somewhere.
Yes.
like pre-planning, not getting to the point where we're talking about RFPs for engineering like we are in other spaces, but certainly something that there's a board endorsement for the road foreman when it's crappy outside and he doesn't have other things going on, that's a use of his time that's not bad. But we should have that conversation at one meeting.
And that's all from me unless anybody has any questions.
Anyone have any questions of Mark? Thank you for coming in and your good work and hard, planning.
Thank you. This is frankly one of the most important discussions that we've had in the last couple of years.
And it really helps having this material. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
I'm really happy with how this spreadsheet has come out. It is now a general purpose like this format can be used for capital planning in the future on all kinds of things. You'll see that it also included the updated highway truck planning, the most recent, that includes the white pickup truck, and things like that. It's just as this is all of our equipment, so you can see it all on that spreadsheet. I will work toward a sheet that includes the rest of the pieces in the future. So there's more capital planning to do. This gets done about a third of the town's long-term capital planning.
Good. All right, the next item on the agenda is 4.2 appointments.
Joe Nash as conditional land use administrator after she offered her unresignation because her personal circumstances had changed. So what I'm seeking is to authorize the appointment of Joan Nash as land use administrator conditional on the planning commission's approval at their next regular meeting.
Okay,
And
so we're looking for motion on that, I guess.
Could I just ask, if we want meaningful consultation with the planning commission, shouldn't we ask them before we appoint her?
we should,
Because if we make the appointment conditional on it, it's sort of like, it's like a fait accompli, what are they gonna say? No, we don't want, I mean, I feel a little funny
for
about
risk
that.
of putting words into their mouth, when I sent hey, we're gonna have to schedule out this email, there was an enthusiastic response to that, hey, we're gonna need to get this on our next agenda response.
Of having her back,
Yeah.
They
back to
want it.
back. So,
okay,
so that's, I think
So they've informally been.
they've been, as informally as, while staying within the bounds of open meetings law, I expect that they will not just that they will enthusiastically make this motion, and I will literally probably be putting the word enthusiastically into the minutes of that meeting. So yeah, it's
okay, so are we appointing her land use administrator or conditionally, or what?
land use
Interim?
administrator conditional on final approval by the planning commission.
Okay, and do I say Joe Nash or Anita Jones?
Anita Jones.
Okay, I make a motion to appoint Anita Joe Nash as land use administrator, conditional on Arlington Planning Commission approval.
Is there a second? Second. Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Glenn to appoint conditional appointment of Joe Nash back to the zoning administrator position pending final approval by the planning commission. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Right.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Is there any other appointments? Nope, just that one? Okay.
More resolution to make Sears.
Yep,
Shared
you got that on the screen?
that.
Do I need to read it in?
This will be part of the record no matter what.
Okay,
So unless anyone has any edits to this, I incorporate some feedback from Cynthia on this. And
Just one thing, the community of Arlington, that's a singular, should it be takes public note? I don't, I mean, I know it's a community is a plural group, but it's still a singular. In the whereas center series, now therefore be it resolved down below. The community of Arlington takes public note.
Yes. Okay,
Okay, good catch.
thank you.
I'm very pleased that we did this.
Okay.
And will it be in the town meeting report?
I can make sure it be so. And yeah, we just need a motion to approve, and I'll also separately post this onto the town website as part of our, with our agendas and stuff like that.
Okay,
I make a motion to approve of the memorial resolution for the late Senator Dick Sears.
Second.
motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Jamie to approve the resolution for the late Dick Sears memorial resolution. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
You.
Next item is discussion of the sheriff's contract, and I think you have that in your package.
So I had a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
So when we last had a contract with the sheriffs, at one point, former members of the board identified some problems with the contract in terms of how it was implemented. And one of them, if I remember correctly, may have been that at times a sheriff's deputy would be patrolling Arlington and then leave Arlington to respond to an emergency in another town, which is totally legitimate. But then Arlington would still be paying for his time, even though he was no longer patrolling Arlington. And there was also something about court cases, and I don't have complete memory of that. I do see that in, bold number 4, E, it says, something about responding to emergencies. I mean, within the town, of course, or nearby. So I don't really know. I don't know if these are an issue. I know this is a new sheriff's department, and I don't know if any of, I guess it would be Todd or Dan, remember the issues at that time. And again, it's a new sheriff, it's a whole new thing. I just wanted to be sure that we could prevent the kinds of misunderstandings or cross purposes that we experienced previously, and that the best way to do that is to be sure things are clear. So I didn't know, Nick, if you would have any comment on that.
I know that this is a fully new contract.
Right.
A freshly drafted by the department's attorneys that rebuilt the contract from zero. That's, whether that specific matter is as crystal clear as it needs to be, I'm not sure in this contract. There are other taxpayer protection provisions in here that are extremely welcome, including the referral provision that says that avoids some of the manpower issues where we got a gigantic bill for a singular arrest at some point. That where they refer the matters to the state police that I think I'll find that.
I think one of the issues brought up before
Yeah.
was that whenever there is an arrest made and there's court proceedings following,
Mhm.
that the town is billed for those. But if I were to put myself in the sheriff's shoes, I'm not going to pay the people to go do that. Those would be town contract hours. You know what I mean?
Because they're working a case for Arlington.
Correct.
So they
So
would
keep in
be,
mind, those would be less hours on patrol
Correct.
throughout your year, your annual contract.
that we're not getting something for nothing here. They're.
But
they're not-
they're pursuing the court case that originated in activities in a
Correct.
speeding arrest or
Correct.
accident arrest or whatever. Okay, so that, I understand that, but what about the question of, you're on a 6-hour patrol duty or 4-hour patrol duty in Arlington, and there's an emergency in Manchester, and you leave Arlington 2 hours into your tour. Is Arlington paying for your 4-hour tour, even though you left to do an emergency in another
I
town?
think this contract leaves that relatively ambiguous. And that's.
That's a problem for me.
It's.
I would suspect if it is to back up, if it is a serious safety issue in a town that we don't have a contract with, I would suspect that the town of Arlington would be bearing that cost. However, if it is to assist an officer in a town that they have a contract with, then I would suspect that he would be billing that town for more than one officer. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It makes sense, but I would like to be sure that they weren't billing both towns, and I would like to understand why, if they are assisting in law enforcement activities in a town that does not have a contract with them, that is not Arlington, why Arlington would be bearing those costs. Because if it hadn't been during Arlington's tour, Arlington wouldn't be bearing that cost. I mean, I'm just trying to make sure that we get
We're not repeating
our
the
money's
same
worth, and we're
mistakes.
not repeating the same
This is never
mistakes.
going
And
to
I
be-
don't have complete recollection about what the previous mistakes were, but those were two of the errors. I
Those were two of the
accept
big
what you
ones.
said about the court cases. That makes sense. I don't want to hold this up. I mean, I think it would be good to get this in place, because we're going into the summer season. Many people have raised speeding with me and activities near the river and other kinds of things. So I want to get this in place. But I guess, one of the things that would help is really clear billing practices. In other words, that it says patrolled Arlington for 4 hours. And if you left and went to Glastonbury, it says was in Glastonbury for 2 hours of that time. And then we can say, wait a minute, and then we can discuss that further or paper it up in a different way. I mean, and maybe that's seldom gonna come up. But
Yeah, it would have to be captured in that point number 6 reporting. I'm not particularly happy that they're not committing to responding to records requests more.
no, they have to
frequently than-
provide that on a monthly basis. We
No,
shouldn't have to ask
No,
for it.
we would request it, what I would
Every
do
month.
is we would request that monthly.
Okay.
What I wouldn't necessarily be happy with is if we want reports more frequently than that, if say there's an incident and I want to know
What
how much did we
happened?
spend on this?
Yeah,
That we have to wait till the end of the month to get that. That's not, like, that reporting section is not as robust as if I were writing the contract myself. I
well,
believe.
and I'm not, I think I could live with that, because we could revise the contract next go around if that turned out to be a problem, as long as we can get the monthly reports. But yeah, and we do need to understand that if some kind of big thing happens and they're here for hours and hours and hours, then we will have a bigger bill. But that's because they were
Yeah,
working
and-
here in
And
Arlington,
services are
on something
extremely
that
expensive.
happens.
Part of the problem, as I saw it, was we also, the sheriff, and it was unique to the individual.
Yes.
That's not to say that that couldn't happen again, where you request that they be present to answer questions, and they just say, I'm not coming.
Well, I have just two things to say about this. One, I just want to go on the record is my position is we don't need this, but if we're going to do this, then 6 hours per week, 15% of the scope of the services will occur during late afternoons, evening shifts, and weekends. That's only 0.9 hours if I do rough math.
Yeah, I
in my
felt as
head.
if more of it should be that's when we need the patrol.
That is when they are least available, and that's something that I talked to the sheriff about, and that this is something that they really can't commit. That this is something that unfortunately, with their staffing situation, the hours that their people work, that most towns that they patrol, we know that there's a lot
We all
of
want
crime.
The same time.
Yeah,
We all-
every one of us would love for a sheriff's deputy to have
Right.
a
Okay,
shift
got
that
it.
starts at 3 p.m.
Got it.
But likewise, that is a really important point, and I will say also for the record as a staff opinion that that I do think Arlington is relatively well policed, and that there is a case to that more during the day, primarily speed control may not be a $70-something per hour bang for our buck. It's important to consider the costs here. I'm just throwing a generalized point that the cost on this is not a trivial thing. It is not
No,
and
if I'm doing the math right, it looks like 6 hours a week is about $4,300.
About a little over $22,000 a year
22,
for patrols Monday through Friday during the day.
which will require us
6
to,
hours times 52.
which will require us to increase the budget for policing in the next budget.
Okay,
Require.
so how about, let's have a town constable, how about that?
You're welcome.
There you go.
Been there, done that.
I think they want you to get law enforcement.
So I tried to
I
look
think that'd be
that
a great
through
town
for the VSP contract. I couldn't find it. But how does this stack up to what we had with the VSP?
I mean, the state police doesn't guarantee any hours, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, the state police wouldn't say to you, yes, we're gonna patrol weekends, yes, we're gonna patrol nights, they just don't do that. Hourly wise, they're a little less than the state police, but troopers actually, they make more money. But I was also not in favor of the state police contract too.
Yeah.
So, so there are similarities, but there's also a lot of differences here as well. You know,
I mean,
so.
VSP has always been our police force here in town.
Well,
We have hired
Yeah.
the sheriffs to fill in here and there.
Yeah, I mean, in this county, you're the state police, you're primary law enforcement, except for Arlington, Windhall, and Manchester.
I remember back when we had the sheriffs in town and everybody loved having them. This is just the base number for 6 hours times 52 weeks. But we were spending, and I think you can go back and verify this is accurate, upwards of 32,000 annually,
Mhm.
based on billings and.
When I got on the
Our
board,
budget when I came here was $45,000.
I was gonna say.
when I got on the board, the sheriff's department contract was about 45,000.
But for lots of years after the first few, 30, 32, 34, 35, and we just kept climbing. And that was one of the reasons why we went away from it. And I concur with you, Todd. I don't think we necessarily need the sheriff's in town with the number of troopers we have in town.
I
And
don't,
just incidentally
I
doing
don't
their work.
understand how you think that having troopers living in town controls speeding on East Arlington Road, on Sunderland Hill Road, on River Road, or any kind of river activity. It just doesn't. I understand the reservations about this contract, particularly in terms of, everybody wants them at the same time and they can't guarantee us the weekend stuff that we want. But I just, I don't think having troopers living in town, it's not serving the people who are talking to me. If we wanna go naked, if we wanna have nothing and try that and then come back to this next year, I could understand that. This is not a perfect contract. I don't think it's gonna get better next year. But maybe we'll decide then, well, the speeding really is out of control, or the activities in the river were just impossible. Now, of course, if it's on the weekend, they wouldn't be here anyway. So if I understand correctly.
Well, in the
And I would
in the
say-
grand scheme of it all, I mean, the sheriffs aren't gonna do the nights, the weekends like we're talking
certainly
about.
not gonna
And
do the river.
being
Right.
naked is what we've been dealing with, because we talked about it 2 weeks ago. We've paid the state troopers $500 since January. So really being naked is what we've been dealing with.
Yeah, I know, but now we're going naked into the summer. Of course, that's when you want to be naked. But anyway, it's like, I'm just concerned.
Not really
I'm
everyone.
concerned. You got nothing to follow that with. I know, but I mean, I'm serious
No, I know.
because people get hurt on the river all the time, and most of the time we get away with it and they don't get killed. But Jamie knows perfectly well. Now, again, it's gonna be accidents and then we call people and they come. But to me, now maybe I just have this primitive faith in the cruiser and the uniform, but to me, when officers, whether it's sheriff deputies or Vermont State Police, are showing up regularly at the gathering spots on the river, showing up regularly in the rec park, showing up at Stewart's, showing up. To me, that is a great reassurance as a law-abiding citizen. And I feel that it's a deterrent to people who are getting in trouble. And when the officer comes and they can see that people are drunk and about to fall into the bonfire, they can prevent stuff. So I like to prevent stuff, and I feel like showing the flag, showing the uniform is part of that. It may not be worth $22,000. I don't know, but that's where this is coming from for me. So I don't know what the right thing to do is. So I will defer to you gentlemen, but I just know that I have people who are concerned about drug use in town, about speeding in town, about safety on the river, and about our young people. And they're very concerned about that. And they feel that patrols are part of trying to prevent problems and catch problems. But this may not be the right contract.
So this is what I would recommend as a police officer. If you have people that are concerned about a specific area, like people are speeding by my house on 313 every day between 7 and 8 o'clock, they can either email the lieutenant or have Nick email the lieutenant. And I will just about guarantee you that Lieutenant Coop will at least boost patrols there on a temporary basis to see if we can curb the behavior. I mean, that's what you're already paying for.
We had a problem with school buses and cars passing school buses. We reached out to VSP. They had troopers there in multiple locations, and in less than a week's time, there wasn't anybody else passing school buses. And there were some tickets, and very hefty tickets passed out.
I will tell you this, if this was a weekend night contract, I would probably have a way bigger appetite for this, because those are times that, in my mind, you want
But
those
it's not.
extra.
It's
But it's
not.
not, we're getting.
We're not
9
getting, we're
hours
not
of
getting
this
what
stuff.
we need.
And they're
No.
explicitly saying we won't.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
they're saying we can't provide the services.
Right,
that
and
we
I,
know
you know, and that was not what I expected, but I understand the manpower problem and the fact that everybody wants us to. Well, I will just tell you right now that multiple people have mentioned speeding on River Road. You know, really risky behavior with various different kinds of vehicles. So, and then also, Warner
Some
Road,
legal and
you know, some of the,
illegal.
exactly. And remember that River Road is still getting more use than it should because Benedict Crossing is still closed. So, you know, so I think, I mean,
Got a
that's.
lot of log trucks down there right now. So
I
the
don't
other
think-
thing I
don't
would
think the
say
log
about the
trucks are
river,
necessarily-
the river use is I have never seen a trooper, a game warden, or a sheriff's department arrive for a river rescue.
Well,
Nope, it's never happened. Even policing at the covered bridge or the fishing access down here, for them to pull in and do anything there, I've never seen it, other than we had high water and multiple people trapped one day, and we asked the trooper to go to the fishing access right here at the Gulf and stop anybody else from getting in,
pulling in,
because we
yeah.
were already,
Right,
that was the
You're
only
You
time.
were the catcher in the rye,
And
yeah.
importantly, we now
So-
have warning signs at all of those
Right.
put-in sites
Right.
that can be
Uh,
filled out.
but the
with a
covered
marker
bridge,
in
I
half an
mean-
hour.
When it's half a lane wide and you're not putting a fire truck through there, and that's the first access to get over to River Road, down on that lower end, I mean, that's the time that it needs to be dealt with. But they're not gonna provide that. 'Cause that's
Well,
the
I do know
weekend.
that, and now this is going back a ways, but this is a previous iteration of the sheriff's department, and one of the sergeants came in, and this was when the Backfield Watershed Alliance, the group that I work with, we actually had river stewards. We hired people to float the river, try to help people monitor things, do various kinds of erosion control projects, all kinds of stuff. And the sergeant who came at that time, he said, you know, if you see people who are drunk and disorderly on the river, call us. If we can come, we'll come. Because if they're drunk on the river, they're gonna be drunk when they get in their car to drive home.
Yeah.
So, so he was very much, call us, we will come. Now, of course, you know, it depends on what else is going on, if they've got availability, but at that time, with that personnel, they were very much, we want to help with problems on the river. Now, it might not be a bad, idea to, you know, I don't know, to pursue that in another at another time. But again, it was all about trying to prevent problems because the drinking on the river is a huge problem for the adjoining landowners. I mean, I know that it's really worse down in New York State, but there are landowners in New York State that have their own swimming hole and they don't allow their grandchildren to go in the swimming hole because of the nature of the river traffic and the use of glass bottles in the river, which is like, too stupid to live. But anyway, so, if we want to let this lie for now, I think that might be the best thing, because I think you're right that we wouldn't be getting what we explicitly want to do. And that's partly just an artifact of where we are nowadays in law enforcement. But I would like to keep it open, possibly to revisit in the future. And I would like to somehow communicate that to the sheriff's department that we're not going to pursue this now, but that we have a template, we have something to work from if we need it.
I think we should pursue, I will take that as a sense of the board unless there's an objection to that we'll drop this contract, and I will let the sheriff know, hey, if you find yourself with the capability of that in the future, this is what would trigger us to be back in this market again.
We can't get what we explicitly want.
Right.
And that's not a good
There's
deal
a
for the
specific
market.
type of policing that we're in the market
Right.
for, and same way we're only in the market for a certain type of excavator.
Right,
These are all similar things, and
right.
ultimately, we want to have a positive working relationship with that department, and I think we do have one. So I will, without objection,
I will tell you that Sheriff Gully, has done an excellent job down there. He's brought on some really good,
That's
highly
wonderful.
qualified deputies.
That's wonderful.
But I also understand that, with other contracts and stuff, that it is difficult to provide weekends and evenings.
Yeah.
That's when people don't want to work, right?
That's right.
So-
That's right. And there's
One
just,
thing we used to do with the sheriff is if there was a hot spot in town, people would call us. They call the office, whatever. They would say, they're speeding on East Arlington Road, they're speeding by the park or wherever. And we would focus their attention in those areas. I'm sure we can do the same thing with state.
Yeah, we can, absolutely.
Just call
well, and the other thing too is like, as the state police are driving in and out of town, they could just take the long way down the road or just circle in the rec park
I
or.
will say they've been by
I
my
certainly
house
see-
several times lately
on
on the lower end.
I've certainly seen him come by my house on the back way.
I will also retract part of my statement, and I did said that VSP or whoever doesn't show up. They do show up, but we're the first ones there, and they usually come and back us up if there's anything needed.
And that's inevitable because you guys are right here. So you're gonna be the first one seeing.
They're trained. Our troopers aren't necessarily trained in swift water rescue.
Yeah, but also the troopers are always coming from further away, than.
Usually,
So I guess a motion to table this is in order.
I would say just a motion to reject the contract as presented would be the correct thing, not table it.
Okay,
Just let's close the contract and say this isn't for us.
okay.
But you'll
I will
communicate
communicate them
the
politely.
reservations and
Yeah,
thanks but no thanks.
yes,
At this
that's
time.
it.
Okay. All right.
So motion does that.
Thank you, thank you very much for working this up
Yes.
and it isn't wasted.
Yeah, I was
Because
glad
we're
to
getting
have
back to it.
a time to reconnect with the sheriff over this. We do need a
Yes.
motion.
I'll make a motion to, reject the sheriff's department's current contract proposal.
Motion made by Todd and seconded by Glenn to reject the contract as presented. All those in favor signify by saying
Aye.
aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. The next item on the agenda is an affirmation of the ARPA awards from the water board meeting. We've just.
Motion to accept the awards as presented or as approved by the water commissioners, to be paid for with ARPA funds, something like that.
I make a motion to approve of the award of ARPA money to finance the South Road work and the hydrogeology, both contracts with Arter Creek as established and approved in the Arlington Water Commissioner meeting preceding this one.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Glenn to affirm the ARPA awards approved by the water board in the meeting prior to our select board meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Other business, is there anything else?
Wait, what about this appraisal letter, because I don't understand.
Okay,
This is just, we got the notice, we'll go with, we're under all of the business, right?
yep,
Okay, so you all got notice today, this letter came in the mail that triggers
the
the
official.
reappraisal. We all knew it was coming 6 months ago. Here you are. We have a letter. We'll send it back to them. The listers got it today. The treasurer got it today. Now you know. Now the public knows we'll be reappraising. what
But
we
that
bought.
will be for next tax
Next-
year. It
Next
doesn't
tax
really-
year.
But what I don't understand is the last page that shows accounts, and I don't understand what it's
So
showing.
that's just showing we have the money in the bank to pay for this.
That's our sinking fund.
But that's our sinking fund.
I understand that, but I don't understand, what
This
is this a fragment of a larger thing, so it makes no sense?
No, this is just
just that.
this is the balance of the sinking fund for reappraisal.
So my question, related to Cynthia's is the total asset is 158,294.40. The highlighted balance down below of the total fund balance is 144,832.94. There's approximately a $13,000 difference, and there's nothing there that explains it.
I don't actually have that answer. This came in late today.
Okay, that's fine, it's just that,
Let's,
it's just
I'll
that,
look into it.
and again, there could be something on another page that's not showing here, but this page makes no
Yeah,
sense.
there could be.
It
there could
definitely
be other
shows
ones.
that there's money in this fund, but, the sheet as presented makes no sense.
Yeah, I appreciate, you noting that. We'll look into what the deal is with it. It may be that there's another related fund
Yeah.
that's lumped in
Well,
with
yeah,
this.
there might
It's
be.
probably that.
And the appraisal is gonna cost approximately what?
Honestly, I really don't know. I've never done one of these.
And
So.
the other thing that it could be, and don't quote me on this, but this is a little stab at it. The $13,000 difference might be what we are
Yeah,
anticipating.
part of your
Yeah,
money's in
then
the
it should
CD and
say
it
that.
hasn't
But it
matured
shouldn't
yet.
say that it's in there.
Well, no, it says it right here. It says reappraisal CD. Well, CDs don't mature until they're at their life end. So if that's a 3D, if that's a 3-year CD, you currently don't have 158,000. You don't have that until
There we go. The
it
treasurer uses their
matures.
authority to put that money in the CDs for their
Correct.
authorities.
Okay.
But if you leave that money in there until the CD reaches its end, let's say 3 years, you have $158,000.
Okay.
I don't see how you get that out of this.
Well, I mean, that's how CDs work.
I understand that,
It
but,
says CD in the. top
I
line.
understand that, but, I don't,
It's a little.
It could be just the note
It's
number.
just- usually you give the value of the CD right now. You don't give the value of the CD at maturity. That's not accurate. So I don't understand.
It
And
could
I
be
think
the
that's a
value.
good point,
That
but I
should
think
be
we
it.
should just ask the
We just
treasurer
need to
for
get
clarification.
that
It doesn't matter, it's not an action
Take a look
figure.
at it.
It's just that, I mean, I looked at this and I tried to understand it and I can't, so
Not from the information presented.
maybe Steve can.
Yes, Steve.
And you can call the CD yourself, you just lose interest.
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah,
We wouldn't
absolutely,
know.
absolutely.
And if I was reporting, I would say 158,000. I have 138 in cash and then a 20,000 CD.
Mhm.
That's how it should be reported on the balance sheet.
Yeah.
And not some,
Yep, I agree that.
Never gets an awful program.
But that's not what's on here.
Yeah, we just need clarification of what's on there.
Yeah.
This-
we'll confirm with Greg.
Mind you, this is Nemrick's way of answering that question. And this is what-
It's a highly imperfect program as you
Very.
discussed. Um,
I think that's the problem, is the Nemrick system.
I look forward to watching how one of the neighboring towns is navigating a transition away from Nemrick. If it works, we'll look at it, but it may not. So we'll watch. But that's why we learn from our
They've
peers.
had a monopoly for way too long.
In any case.
All right, is there any highlights from the?
I have some park
Oh, you
stuff.
got some
Yeah.
stuff. Okay,
Um,
go ahead.
I did some walk around with Jamie, like I try to do from time to time. We have some fence repair that needs to get done. Jamie Caution brought down, a fence guy that's gonna be giving us a quote to make those repairs, safety concerns.
Okay,
And
these fences are what?
it's park. Everything's at the park.
Okay.
Softball, baseball, soccer
Gotcha,
field.
gotcha.
Yep, we don't know what that's gonna be right now.
I have not received the
It's
quote yet.
just repair stuff, to prevent injury, basically.
Yep.
The other piece I have, I know that, just flagging it, Willie did a work order for the culvert to be repaired and the stone wall that goes over the the culvert to the, golf course.
Mhm.
Kids have wonderfully pushed the large stones into that, I believe that. Mark-
Yeah, I looked at it
Okay,
and,
Plugged it?
I told him that when we got done with, roadside mowing, hopefully next week
Yeah.
we'll get there.
This is the one down,
it's the big one that you drive over right behind the
buildings.
bathroom.
That goes to the golf course there.
okay,
Just some of the stone that they put up around that they originally put up around the end of the culvert
push
is,
the,
is rolled
Yeah.
off. I may have to dig some back in to set the stone back in.
gotcha.
The other piece, I know that we've talked about this for a few years, but we never really we have not made any progress on it, is the wash pad. We approved it once, but do we need permitting for that, Nick? Or-
Permitting this one, all this stuff, right?
So last I talked to with the state on that bid, it's concrete on the ground isn't something that really impedes them because it's not gonna be any substantially different than it is right now. I
And
will
it's
ask
a
the state
small,
next
it's a
time.
small
Yeah,
amount. I mean,
I'll
that's
ask Josh
small.
Carball when I see him in the morning. He'll be at a training that Mark and I are at.
Okay.
I think Will was up for like a 12 by 12 or
Yeah.
something.
I don't know if it was that.
I don't think it was that big.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'd just like to get that going,
Yeah, let's-
if for safety reasons, because Willie's
Yeah.
probably on the machines right now. Greens mower trailer, I know we approved that, but
Yep,
we had to order it.
it's ordered. It'll be delivered sometime soon. They had to refit it, but,
Okay.
that'll be coming in anytime in the next couple of weeks.
Good.
Already paid for it.
I also chatted with him about the sprinkler system because it's in the ARPA piece
Yep.
still. So he does not believe that the automatic one is necessary if we're going that route. So,
Okay. That says,
I think that's all I have. Yeah,
Thank you.
the rest I
anyone
can
else?
talk to Nick about after.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you wanna hit any highlights on the town administrator's report?
I don't have a lot of highlights this week period. It was a pretty normal period that had some IT, some grant work. I had two big audit pieces that came through between V-Trans, the sidewalk, and our workman's comp insurance. So we got both of those sorted out, which were both some substantial projects. But otherwise it was a fairly normal period, and I'm gonna have some time off this period, so I expect it to be a fairly normal period right now. Mark had a really big highlight with getting that Grants Aid project done. That is a record early in the year to get that project done that we were. So congratulations to Mark. Thank you for making it a big priority. It's awesome to me that we're getting that done in June, not in September. So those are a couple highlights, but thank you.
Okay, I guess we're to warrants and orders.
Okay, this is about the water department regular expenses. Highlights are the VLCT insurance of $1,309. Envelopes for use in the billing for 1,180, so they got kind of stocked up. And remount power for that 958. So I will make a motion to approve a check warrant report number WD 12 dated 6/14/24 for a total of $4,201.89. Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Jamie to approve check warrant report WD number 12 for the water department. Total amount of $4,201.89. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Well,
Aye.
Any opposed?
You made the mistake.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, I do have one question here. It says Praetorian disaster response.
That's actually the cleaner for town hall.
For what?
The cleaner for town hall runs through it.
Really?
Yes, they changed their names since we entered into the group, but they're like the rest of the company now does things like cleaning up flooded basements and things.
Okay, it's just really interesting, because wasn't the Praetorian Guard part of the Romans?
Yes.
It was like a Roman guard? And it called
It seems like
Praetorian
overkill for a cleaner.
Well, I
certainly.
mean, it just like caught my eye, man, that caught my eye. Okay, so, I make a motion to approve check warrant report number 12 dated 6/14/24, being the regular general fund expenses of the town of Arlington. Key parts are the payment to Bennington County, which is for the sheriffs and the judicial system. Green Mountain Power, the insurance again, and regular sorts of expenses like that. Motion to approve check warrant report in the total of $54,886.75.
The Bennington County one is our taxes. We pay half now and half in November.
Taxes.
Right, but the taxes are going to the judges and the sheriff. But they are the taxes to the county, yes.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Motion was made by Cynthia and seconded by, I'm not sure. Glenn. To approve check warrant report number 12, the total amount of $54,886.75. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
So
Is there any?
I don't see a need for an executive session tonight unless there is. Okay, Jamie,
Personnel.
personnel?
Okay, I just do want to add a historical footnote. It's my understanding that in Rome, there's a section of wall that was the original quarters of the Praetorian Guard at the time of the beginning of the,
There we go.
what are we at? Anno
Okay.
Domini, year 1000, year 30
Personnel.
years.
So we need to, pass a motion to,
I make a
establish the
motion.
reason as a personnel matter.
I make a motion that premature discussion of a personnel issue would cause the municipality to suffer substantial disadvantage.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Glenn to establish the reason for the executive session as a personnel matter. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Now we need to enter into the executive session.
I make a motion to actually enter into executive session for discussion of said personnel issue and to allow town administrator Nick Zias to remain in the room.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Glenn to enter into executive session to discuss said personnel matter and allow Administrator Zias to remain in the room. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Recording stopped.
Gentlemen, for coming in.
Right, Todd. Thank you.
Office strictly prohibits irrigation.